Hey everybody, this is Mad Matt Carter. Thank you so much for watching the AIWF Network YouTube channel as well as the AIWF Ringside Wrestling channel. If you like what you see, please do us a big favor. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications every time we post new videos on both our channels. It means a lot to us, and thanks a lot for watching once again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast. My name is, as per usual, Bobby effin Salas. I can't even pronounce my own surname. How embarrassing is that? My name is, as per usual, Bobby effin Salazar. And with me on the line is the current reigning and defending Allied Independent Wrestling Federation's World Cruiserweight Champion, a former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, as seen recently in Ring of Honor, AEW, the NWA, Evolve, and as well the WWE. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, the Stray Dog, Mr. Barrett Brown. Barrett, how are we doing, good sir?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you for the intro. I feel like there should be confetti flying around. I feel good, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate you.
No worries. I was going to say, like, when I sort of first reached out to you to come on, well, we're probably talking like a month and a half like ago now, like we've been sort of like working on this now. Like, sort of doing a bit of research on you. I'm like, oh my God, he's done this. He wrestled him. You know, like he's done that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And yeah, so. But like we'll get on to your various different accolades, you know, soon. But yeah, I just want to start off by saying thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, especially as it has been recently, to appear here on the Nerdic Pro podcast. I do very much appreciate it.
Of course, man. And it's like I kind of told you earlier before we went live. Like I felt bad because we were supposed to do this last Saturday, and I've said it publicly that I was going to be at AEW, and I was like, oh, I gotta let Bobby know that I can't do it. Like, oh, like right when you posted the date, I got the email, and I was like, oh my God, that's horrible timing. I gotta let him know. But I'm glad we got to make it work, man. I'm glad to be here, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries. I was gonna say, like I also said to you, like just before we came live, saying that like I say this to everyone that comes on, you know, not to prioritize like the podcast over a show because, you know, 99% of people that come on are wrestlers and are physically involved with wrestling. And I always say, like, you've made your name through wrestling, not through doing podcasts. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And what have you? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so sort of introduce yourself to the audience, because I'm sure that you know who you are better than what I do and like what the audience do. Who are you, sort of thing, and what was your very first sort of introduction, shall we say, to professional wrestling?
Man, it was always on the TV growing up. My family's always been big fans of wrestling. I grew up watching WCW. It was always on the TV. I was enamored with the aura that Goldberg had. It always drew me to the TV, and I wanted to know what it felt like to be that guy. And I was very fortunate that, you know, once I became a teenager, my mom actually graduated with a guy who ran a school nearby where I grew up. And so when I was 15, I got my first real like training in a wrestling ring. Started training, started traveling, started kind of meeting people, and had my first match January of 2010. I was still 15 years old because someone didn't show up to a show. I got plugged in with my trainer, just filled a spot in, didn't know what was going to happen that day. And then really from there, man, like I went to Killerton Brooks and Waxahachie, Johnny Mantell, Steve Anthony, who used to be the head trainer at Harley Race's school, took me under his wing. The Road became my trainer after that. And now almost 15 years later, I've had all these opportunities that I never thought this young introverted kid from a small town in Texas would have. So it's been great, man. And I'm blessed with a very strong support system that I don't think a lot of people have, and they've definitely helped me on the way. So it's been a great journey so far, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
So do you remember like your first sort of like training session? Like, were there any nerves going into it?
Absolutely. I was scared to death because I stepped into the ring in this at this guy's house, and he was like, you know, you're gonna take your first bump, just fall down. I fell down. All the wind came out of me. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, this hurts. This hurts a lot. And but I loved it too much. I kept showing up, and I feel like in hindsight, it was kind of a situation where he was like, I'm gonna take this kid's parents' money, train him a couple of times, beat him up, send him on his way. But I kept showing up, and I kept showing how bad I wanted it. And, you know, he was kind of like, okay, he actually cares. Like, he's actually working hard. And so I started traveling with him. He was a small time wrestler around my area named Cody Knight, you know, just kind of a hometown hero. But that first few training sessions, man, it was hard. It was brutal. It beat me up, but I loved it. And I was like, this is everything I could have hoped it would be. So, and then just the passion never died.
So, do you remember your first match that you had then?
I do. And I was, again, scared to death because I was just going to show up and hang out with my trainer. Someone no-showed the event, and he was like, well, you have your knee pads with you. Let's plug the kid in. And I went out there in front of a crowd of maybe 10 people. I thought it was WrestleMania. And this little 15-year-old kid, bald-headed at the time. I had no hair at the time. Very, very thin, very, just this teenage kid went out there and thought he was in the main event of WrestleMania. And I remember very vividly the finish was I jumped off the second rope. Guy caught me, hit a slam. And I was so happy afterwards. I thought like confetti and everything. So it was, I'll never forget it, man.
So since then, like, let's face it, you've worked for literally the biggest companies on the planet when it comes to wrestling. You've worked for New Japan. You've worked for Evolve when they were about. You worked for the NWA. Even was, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were the last ever NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion when Billy Corgan took over.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as well as AEW recently, Ring of Honor, right, and even the WWE. So,
it's been a crazy run, man. I that introverted 15-year-old kid never would have thought it would have been this way. Yeah. And I've got a lot of crazy stories really from every place. And it's funny you mentioned all those. There should be one more on that list, but due to a COVID issue, I was supposed to be in an X Division tournament at TNA when it was still Impact that aired, I believe it was in January of 2011. It was going to be filmed in December of 2020, but I was literally backstage at New Japan when I got the call from D'Lo Brown to be a part of the X Division tournament. The plan was wrap up taping, fly home, take a day off, and then travel to Nashville to tape. But then I got an email that someone at the taping had contracted COVID, that I was nearby. I could not get a test in time. And I didn't want to be that guy that was like, hey, I'm not contracted, but here's COVID for everybody. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to get blacklisted. And I was like, here's the issue. I can't get a test. And so D'Lo Brown, if you listen, you still owe me that favor, bud. You told me, like, I'll bring you back in, kid. So if you hear this podcast, I still remember that conversation. But things happen for a reason, So.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I was going to say, but I see all these other big companies, and then see that TNA wasn't a part of it, and I'm like, has he? Or, yeah. I was then like, has he wrestled for them, or like, has he not, or am I looking like in the right places to search for it? You know what I mean? So
the two that are left are TNA and AAA. Those are the two that I have left as far as the biggest ones. So
yeah, fair enough. So sort of talk us through when you were picking one out the hat, the NWA, right? Talk us through, because when you had actually won the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship,
right,
and sort of working for them, like the NWA is like an organisation that's got so much history. Do you know what I mean? So did you grow up watching the NWA sort of bits and pieces, or was it more like outside of the NWA?
It was vaguely outside, but I did know kind of some of the history growing up. The funny thing is, my trainer Cody, who broke me in, it was always a recurring joke with him and I that because he was a huge NWA fan, and the recurring joke was like that one day he'd be the heavyweight champion and I'd be the world junior. And I remember when discussions started happening about me potentially winning that title, I was like, how cool would it be to take that belt to his house and show him like, hey, like we did it. That was always like the cool thing for me. And I got to, like, that was such a full circle moment for me. As far as like in-depth studies of the NWA as a kid, I can't say that I fully did, but once I broke into the business and started studying really who was who paved the way, that was when I really started diving into it. When I was about 18 to 20, I really started studying the NWA and getting an appreciation for it. And so then like going through the list of the names of former world junior heavyweight champions, I was like, really, I'm on this list too? What? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it came later on, but now I have such a deep appreciation for the path that they paved for us.
So, if you don't mind me asking, when Billy Corgan got around to taking over like the NWA, and literally because like the NWA, like the original concept back in 1949 was to be an alliance of wrestling promotions,
right?
And he like when Corgan took over, he pretty much finished with like the alliance side of things, like the territories. What was sort of like going through like you when you found out that you were no longer the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and like when your time as champion was like coming to an end?
Yeah, it was very personally draining for me. I can understand the reasonings why he wanted to get rid of the affiliates, and mainly because there were a lot of companies that kind of purchased the name and really didn't do anything with it. So they kind of want to start from the ground up. And in doing so, when I was contacted and they told me that, with starting from the ground up, they'd be only focusing on the world's heavyweight title, which was held by Tim Storm at the time, which meant that the other major title holders, myself, the national title, the North American, the women's, the tag, all had to be shipped back. And I finally got to tell this story, but of course, like I'll just be very vulnerable. I cried on the way to the UPS store when I had to ship it off because that was my holy grail. Like I worked my whole career for that moment. I shipped it off, and I got a phone call from, at the time, the Vice President, David Lagana. And, he said, hey, Barrett, just wanted to touch base with you. I received the title that you sent me. Thank you for that. He said, I just want to ask you, the title that you sent me is the one that you received, correct? And I was like, yeah. And I said, I've got pictures and video of the night that I won it. He said, great. Send me every picture that you have. Send me the video of the match and a notarized statement because the guy that you beat for it still has the real title. He gave me a fake belt, and that's a shoot. That's a real thing that happened. He spited the former president so much that he stole the real title, and he never gave me the real one. And so because I sent pictures and video and the statement, the next day I received a call again from Lagana, and he said, just want to let you know, because of what you did, you saved us a potential court date, and we received the real title. And yeah, man, it was just like a kick to the gut because I was like, I was the world junior champion, but I never got to hold the real title. You know what I mean? Mm. It was such a kick in the gut to me. I was like, how dare you? Like, you took my moment from me. But I don't know, that it's one of my wildest wrestling stories, but I'm glad that I was able to help them retrieve their property back. So
yeah. Oh, blooming heck. Wow. The fact that how you even saved them at like a potential court date as well, that's wow.
It's crazy. It's not. Well, because when Corgan purchased the company, he bought the titles too, and so that was his property. So yeah, I don't know how I get into these things, man, but somehow I do, and here I am. So,
as the expression goes, there's never a dull moment in pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
Not one bit, man.
So, as well, getting to work in literally the biggest wrestling company in the world, shall we say, the WWE.
Yeah.
You've actually done a few bits and pieces for the WWE. Like, it's not just like the one and done sort of thing, but you've been there like a fair few times.
Yeah.
So, sort of talk us through the various bits and pieces that you've done with the WWE.
So for those of you that do not know this by now, I used to wrestle under a mask as a character called Americos, which was born at a company called TCW, which ran out of Fort Smith, Arkansas primarily. I was given that character because at the time I was 18, still had a shaved head, clean shaven. I looked like I was 12 years old. They wanted to push me for a major title, and so I came up with this mask character, a patriotic luchador, and I believe it was August, I think, of 2016, I received an email for my first extra talent work for the WWE, and I was fed to Braun Strowman that night. They mispronounced my name as Americo, but I didn't care. I was on TV for the first time, and so Braun Strowman slam dunked me that night, so that was great. I rewatch that match every now and then just for the nostalgia. Not long after that, maybe about a year after that, I was a security guard. Braun Strowman yet again got his hands on me, threw me over a guardrail, over a videographer, and through a table. And then, if you rewatch the Dudley Boys Hall of Fame induction ceremony, I was the producer that interrupted them that got put through the table. So that was me at the Hall of Fame that got put through the table. And then most recently, I think it was like 2018, because it's been like 6 years since I've been there. I got to tag with a buddy of mine against the AOP, Authors of Pain, and get powerbombed by those guys. So I've had some really good experiences with them, man. There were a couple of other times where I didn't get to do a whole lot, but it was always such a blessing to be in that environment, to really see wrestling, in a different atmosphere than just like an independent scene, to see what it could be. So I've had some good experiences there, man. Yeah.
So what did it mean for you? Because obviously, like you were watching the WWE as a kid, right, and actually getting to work for that company and whatever, and getting to work with like the Dudley Boys as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And getting them to do like their signature move on you as well. You know what I mean? Pretty much. It's like, so like, what was going through you like when you got approached by like the relevant people like the WWE to actually come along and do these things?
Very surreal feeling, because again, I still felt like that introverted little 15-year-old kid, and I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to be on your product? Another full circle moment for me was when I got to tag against AOP. It took place in Dallas, which is right next to where I live, at the American Airlines Center. And I didn't realize until after the match was over, but my parents, again, being huge fans of what I do, they purchased tickets to the show just in case something happened. And thankfully they did, because their boy got to get killed on TV. But I remember going backstage and calling my mom, who was still in the crowd, and I told her, I said, you realize you just watched me live wrestle in this ring in the building that you took me to for my very first WWE event when I was like 10 years old. And it was just like, I was like, that's such a cool full circle moment. So yeah, those moments are priceless, man.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Jimmy Valiant, Boogie Woogie, legendary Boogie Woogie. Wait a minute, baby. Wait a minute. Hang on. What are you doing around? What was that going there, bud?
This is our neighborhood.
You done made a mistake.
You should be retired, Boogie.
Wait a minute, boys. Let me take a bite of my king dog.
You say king dog?
King dog?
Is that what you said?
What happened? Come on, boy.
Don't let hunger bully you. Get yourself a king dog and you too can become a super hunger fighter.
you've obviously been all over the world, and
Yep.
you know, like I'm sure got some stories to tell, like still, but you know, what you've done in the wrestling business so far, you know, what does that mean for you as, you know, someone who was a fan of the business and, you know, literally getting to travel the world as you have done? You know, like you were over this side of the pond like not too long ago.
Yeah.
So what was the wrestling business like meant for you?
Yeah, I mean, man, it means everything because I'm still a fan. I feel like, you know, even as a wrestler, you would never have gotten into this if you weren't a fan of the business. Getting to travel abroad is very surreal because still to this day, I'm still very introverted unless I'm in a wrestling environment. Then that's when I come out of my shell. Wrestling it forced me to grow up fast, but I never, like, I had big dreams to go to the bigger stages, but I never realistically thought that I would leave my town. You know, I was like, okay, my goal is to have my first match. Okay, maybe win my first match. Okay, win my first championship. Okay, let's leave Texas. And now it's like, okay, well, I've done all that. And then eventually, like, let's leave the country. And then just all these small goals built up. And it's all because of wrestling. And I tell people that now that I'm almost 15 years in, because I run a small school where I live, I tell them that wrestling owes you nothing. Like, you owe wrestling everything. Like, this business owes me nothing. It gave me a purpose. It helped me get in shape. It gave me a reason to become who I am today. And I still I still watch clips. I'm still a fan. I have my favorites. I have the guys that I study. And I tell these guys as well, like, you know, if you're not a fan if you would not be in the crowd and be a fan of who you are in there, then you got to change something, because you should be that little kid that was a fan. And if you watch yourself in that ring, you should be a fan of who you are. And that's kind of what I live by, man. I want to give people a good show every time, and I want to enjoy what I would be watching if I was a fan. If I'm watching myself wrestle, would I be a fan of me? And I think now I can say that maybe I would be.
Yeah, so you say that you currently run a school, like, in and around, like, where you live. So talk us through, like, how that sort of came about then.
It's a very strange thing. So, like, I tell people where I live, it looks like a giant storage unit. It does, but because I do construction on the side with my grandfather. We renovated an office building that's attached to storage units. I have a full setup at where I live. I can open a door, and I have a home gym and a wrestling ring basically at my house. I open the bay doors, and I invite people to come out when they need help. I have a few students that train under me currently. I also will travel and do seminars at various schools, either around Texas. I've gone to Oklahoma and done some seminars. I was actually this close to doing a seminar out there. I hate that it didn't happen. I was like, man, that'd be such a feather in the cap to do a seminar overseas. But it didn't pan out this time, but hopefully next time, because I got to get that match with James Mason. That didn't happen this last trip.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll probably talk about. But, yeah, it's just I get to do it where I live, man, and it's just I could not be more blessed. I mean, I could be upset that I'm not signed. I could be upset that I'm not, like, on TV every week, and I get it. I get the comments all the time, like, why are you not? Because you're very good, and I get that, and I appreciate that. But again, I tell people to enjoy the journey, and I've been guilty of not doing that. I've been guilty of dwelling on where I'm not at, and I think this year I've had some good successes, and I think it's because I'm finally taking my own advice. I'm enjoying the journey day by day. I don't care about what happens tomorrow right now. I care about what's happening right now. So I'm just having fun at this point, man. So
So sort of keeping it sort of still, like, involved, like, with the training bits and pieces.
yeah.
What would you say is important for a beginner who's walking into a training school for the very first time, never been anywhere near, you know, physically doing wrestling in their life, right? This will be like the first time they've done it. And if they came to you and wanted to start training, right, what would be the beginner's basics that you would teach this new person who wants to start a career in wrestling?
Yeah. one of the first things that I tell them is ears open, mouth shut. So always listen to any advice you're given. There is no such thing as a wrong question, because I would rather someone ask me if they're not confident in anything that I tell them and let me know, because I'm very much about longevity. I'm very much about protecting yourself in the ring. If there's not confidence in what you're going to do, then my job is to help you get that way, or to help find another way to do something correctly. I'm very big on posture as well, which goes along with safety. I'm very big on wrestlers not crossing their feet. My number one goal, or my first two goals are, number one, never cross your feet, because no matter what your character is, at the base of what you do, you are a professional wrestler, and pros don't cross their feet because there's a chance you could get tripped up, you could fall over. So always keep a good base under you. And man, it's just, stuff like that. Yeah, I could go on for days about what I tell these guys, honestly. Like, you're going to get me excited. I'm going to get start giving out really free advice that I have people pay for. If you're not careful, you're going to get me all worked up here in a minute. But I think the main step one, day one, is really don't turn your back on somebody, and to keep a good base under you, and to listen to what your trainer tells you. And if you have questions, ask. There's no such thing as wrong.
Yeah. So sort of rewinding like a tiny bit, sort of speaking about when you were wrestling abroad, right? It was actually my interview with Matt Classic, the chief executive of the AWF.
Yep.
He was, because I had seen that you were over here wrestling for, I believe it was BW,
Yes.
I think it was, defending the AWF World Cruiserweight title.
Yeah.
There we are. And but you were also meant to wrestle James Mason.
Yes.
I had originally thought that you had actually wrestled James Mason, but the interview that I did with Matt Classic was 3 or 4 days after, that day, and then he said that it had rained on you, unfortunately.
Yeah. So the way we were at a big festival rally, like a car show rally thing, and man, so as a part of the festival, it was every 30 minutes we would have 2 wrestling matches. Then there was 30 minutes in that hour where other stuff would happen. So let's say from 10 a.m. to 10:30 wrestling matches, and then 10:30 to 11 something else, and then we'd reset 11 to 11:30 wrestling matches, and then so on. So myself and James Mason were slotted, I believe, for it was either noon or 1 p.m. And it just so happened, he and I talked, everything was great. I was super excited. So was he. Let's say we were the 12, we were the noon slot, right? 11:56, this gigantic dark cloud comes over us, and just the bottom falls out, dude. I'm talking it stormed on us. The ring was sopping wet. It was like a monsoon hit this place. And I was like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, it couldn't have waited 10 minutes. Let's do our thing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And we were bummed out, because I was going to do that, and then there was going to be a big battle royal later on that I was going to be involved in too. So I was going to get to have 2 more matches on my little mini tour out there, but it is what it is. I got to defend this bad boy over here, and got to bring it back home. So, but my little trip over to your neck of the woods was fun for the small amount that it lasted. Man, y'all's customs is a lot easier to get through nowadays. You just scan and go now. I didn't expect. I was expecting to get hackled. Why are you here? It's I'm just visiting, bro. What do you mean? But yeah, I was like, this is so easy now. It's harder to get back in the country than it was to leave. It's crazy.
All I'm going to say when it comes to the weather is that it's typical British weather, and I was going to say James Mason is by far one of the best wrestlers that you will find in the 4 nations of the UK. You know what I mean?
I agree. Man, I watched him. I got to watch him in person. It was the day before when I defended the AIWF World Cruiserweight title. He was actually the match before mine. And just watching the way that he moves, how he commands the crowd, and it just comes so naturally to him. And I was like, I don't want to follow that. I was like, that was so good. Like, why you got to make me follow James Mason? He's so good. But yeah, I'm so bummed out. But it just means I got to come back, man. I got to come back. We got to make it happen. So hey, James Mason, I'm calling you out right now. We're gonna make it happen. Dang it.
Well, over here we have got ARWF affiliate promotions over here. So yeah,
I mean,
so
within
maybe
earshot,
we can see you against James Mason in one of the ARWF alliance companies over here. In the very near future. So yeah, so sort of talk us through, like, speaking of, sort of talk us through, like, you and the AWF World Cruiserweight title then.
Yeah.
How did you come along with whichever AWF promotions that, like they were, or like it was, where you actually won the World Cruiserweight title?
Yeah, I was contacted by Matt Classic. You know, he said that he had me in mind to, you know, carry this championship, and then I went up to a small town in Tennessee where they do weekly shows, and I won the title. And then I was, you know, to me, this was almost like a rebirth of my reign of the NWA World Junior Heavyweight, because I never got to travel abroad with that title. I wanted to so bad, but I didn't get to. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to travel. I'm going to defend this all over the place. If I can leave the country, I'm going to do it. Like, I want to take this worldwide. Because before me, it has the name. And we have affiliates all over the world, and that's fine. But to me, I could not, in my own consciousness, call it a world title without it being defended overseas. And that's why I'm so adamant about going overseas and defending it and bringing it back home. So now it is a legitimate world championship. I can call it that confidently. And it's what I did not get to do with the World Junior Heavyweight title with NWA. So being trusted with this as the current World Cruiserweight champion, it's an honor. And I'm calling everybody out on your podcast, bro. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to call everyone under 210 that wants a shot at me. Here I am. And I know I think I'm 11 or 12 defenses deep right now. I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm in my prime, and I'm ready to go, man. I'm coming up on a year, 365 days. No one's dethroned me. So any and all that want to try to dethrone the king, come get you some. I'll put it on the line. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of year-long reigns, we've recently seen a new AWF World Champion.
Yeah.
I can't think of the bloke's name. Is it something Koloff?
Yeah.
I genuinely can't think of the bloke's first name. But he's recently defeated Greg Anthony, who's been on the Nerdic Pro multiple times. We've got multiple bits and pieces coming up like in the near future with Greg. But he was champion for over 400 days.
Yeah.
And it recently suffered somewhat of an injury. And so do you see yourself matching the world champion's reign at some point?
I mean, at some point, man, the rate that I'm going, as good as I'm feeling, as confident as I'm feeling right now, I feel like I'm confident to say that, yes, after the past 400 days. And that's not to downplay anybody out there. There's a lot of good competition out there. Man, Texas, I'll say, like, Texas, even just alone, Texas specifically, we have insane talent right now. You guys have insane talent. So there is just a flood of talent that, you know, could make great champions. But they got to get through the stray dog first, and they're not going to. I'm going to make sure I keep this bad boy as long as I can, as I'm going to end anytime soon. So,
yeah. So, like, as well, recently you've also wrestled for Ring of Honor as well. Like, I believe you were in a tag team match.
Yes.
As well. However, watching your the live stream that you were doing on Facebook last night, it's not aired yet, is it?
So the tag match has aired, but there is one more that we filmed that has not aired yet. And for anyone that's watching or will watch this that has followed my journey, the match that has yet to air will be a little bit of a rematch if you know my history. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm excited for it to air because it apparently turned some heads backstage. I was talked to by a few different people while I was at Collision on Saturday. Good conversations, some about the match that I had. And so I'm excited for people to see it. Hopefully it turns even more heads once it airs. So we'll see when it happens. It will not be airing. Well, it didn't air this past Thursday. Hopefully it'll air this coming or the next. So we'll see. But I can't give too much away and get in trouble.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, if the offer ever came up from good old Tony Khan, would you work for Ring of Honor and or AEW on a more regular basis?
I would.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've always put stepping stone goals in front of me. And the next two on my list are very big ones. One is to go to Japan and wrestle, which realistically should have been knocked out a couple of years ago, but due to some format changes with New Japan, it wasn't in the cards at the time. So going to Japan and wrestling is on that list, but also the other one is to sign a contract. And I've never gotten to do that yet. I would love to be a contracted wrestler, and I make somewhat decent money now doing this, like traveling around and everything, but I would love to make a full-blown living, like that this is all that I do. I get to travel, like, man, I would love to go to Wembley. Like, how cool would that be? You know what I mean? Like, maybe go to Wembley and wrestle up there. So, like, absolutely. I have a lot of friends that are there now, a lot of friends that have vouched for me that I know of, and I would love to join them and just have a good time and travel the world. So, I would, absolutely. But that goes for the WWE, too. I would gladly accept it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I was going to say, like, you worked for both companies. Like, you worked for AEW itself. You had a match against Wardlow, I believe it was.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny thing about that match, because I've had a few for AEW, but Wardlow was the most recent. I have a pretty scar above my eyebrow from that man, because when he had me up by the neck and dropped me and hit his knee brace dug right into my skull, and it felt so bad. So I've got a pretty scar. He left his mark on me, but Wardlow, one of these days, I'm going to get you back. So it's a matter of time, bud.
How many other matches have you actually had for Old Elite then?
So, let's see. My debut was on Rampage against Butcher. I did an AEW Dark against Josh Woods. Lance Archer as well. He annihilated me in Texas. There may be another one I'm forgetting about. But yeah, I've had quite a few, man. I've had more in-ring experiences with AEW so far than I have with the WWE, because I've had the 2 matches for WWE, and I believe 4 or 5 for AEW, and then the 2 currently for Ring of Honor. So I'm hoping that I made enough of a statement that I get more of those opportunities. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Yeah. One thing I always say is that if you've given a good enough impression your first time round, then they probably wouldn't have wanted you to come back for the second time round.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? You know, and the fact that you've gone back, near enough 6 times now, 6, 7 times. You know. So sort of speaking about like New Japan as well, you've wrestled on New Japan Strong as well, a few times, like you said about going out to Japan as well. Like, was that something that was in the pipeline for you to actually physically go out to Japan?
It was in the works. Yeah, it was in the works. So when the pandemic hit, they wanted to film content for the American viewers and put it on their platform. So they, we started filming. I was contacted by Rocky Romero to go out to a studio in California, and we were going to film stuff for the content to get through the pandemic. And I was one of the pioneers of that branch. and it was a great time. And it was, what was weird was wrestling for one of the biggest companies, but there being no fans. How weird was that? But it was a great time. And then eventually, you know, we got to bring fans back and got to feel that energy. And so eventually, you know, fans came back and shows in Texas started opening up more now that COVID was kind of, you know, becoming less of a major issue. I got to wrestle Rocky Romero near the Dallas area. And after our match, he said, hey, make sure you have your passport ready because you're going to be going next year in July. And so unfortunately, like I had the passport, I was ready to go. And then right around the time it was going to be time to go, the format for Strong switched because I think that the company itself was drawing in less money than it was spending to produce the show. So they switched to the format of, hey, let's do these bigger shows in America, use the Strong name. But with that, they use all the contracted guys on verbal agreement. So I come on a as-needed basis, which meant that when the Japan tour came around, the main office in Japan wanted all their contracted guys. So my spot was filled, unfortunately. That's why it's kind of why I haven't been on there as much, is because it's just kind of like when I find a spot to get plugged in, that's when it happens. But it's a hurry up and wait scenario, man. I'm just kind of on a constant buy. So it is what it is. I'm grateful for what I got to do. I got to make some great friends. I became a part of a faction at a major company in the Stray Dog Army. Like, how cool is that to say that I got to be a part of that? I got to reform it last weekend, or no, like 3 weeks ago in Oklahoma with Tyler Bateman, who was phenomenal. And that's where the whole Stray Dog name came from, was from the Stray Dog Army. And so I'm grateful for it, man. And if the time comes for me to go back, I'm ready and willing. So.
Secondhand Heroes and Home for Wayward Villains is a comic book shop and gaming store that also features Magic the Gathering and D&D. Located at 18184 Leesville Road in Evanston, Virginia, Secondhand Heroes is your one-stop shop for you to get your nerd on. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. They don't close until the dice stop rolling. They buy, sell, trade, barter, and haggle, specializing in collectible toys, both vintage and modern, comics, Magic the Gathering, video games, console, and arcade cabinets to play, all set to free play. Host your game night with us. Monday night D&D video game competitions, and so much more. Something for the collector and gamer in us all. Call 434-317-0121 or shoot us an email with any questions to secondhandheroesva@gmail.com. Note, secondhandheroesva@gmail.com. That's 2ND, handheroesva@gmail.com. Come game with us.
The relevant people at New Japan, whether it be over in the US or even over in Japan, were to offer you to go there exclusively full time, give yourself like a full time contract, would you agree to it?
100%. 100%. New Japan has always been my dream company. I got to train for I think I've got like 15 lanyards in my living room of all the camps I've attended under Shibata at the LA Dojo when he was running it. It got to the point to where Shibata just told me, he was like, just get here, show up. Like, don't pay for the camp, just come and train with us. And I didn't have to get a room. He would let me stay at the dojo house with him and the Young Lions. I became the unofficial 5th Young Lion for a while. And it got to the point to where he was like, show up in November. This was in 2019. And I told him, I said, listen, I love the camps. I love training with you. I said, but what do I need to do to get on a show? I was ready to go to New Zealand and go to the Fale Dojo if I needed to. I said, I need to know what I need to do. He said, show up in November. We'll have a tryout. I went to the tryout. I guess that they thought highly enough of me to book me the next month for my debut at Lionsgate Project 2, I believe it was, against Alex Coughlin, who was my debut match for New Japan. And then made a statement there. They said, we'll bring you back. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, well, that was fun while it lasted, boys. We had a good run. And then they called me for New Japan Strong after that. So that was how it all kicked off. And a lot of that I owed to Shibata. Shibata really instilled, I already had my basics, but he kind of switched my mindset on a lot of things that I thought that I knew. And I will say confidently that Shibata is the best trainer in the world. And I'm very happy that he has a spot he has now at AEW. He deserves it because he thought he'd never wrestle again. And so I got to see him a couple of weeks ago backstage at Ring of Honor. I got to hug him, and it was good to see my sensei again. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah. So call me stupid, but I assume this is Katsuyori Shibata.
Katsuyori Shibata. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, you got it.
Fair enough. But so with the sort of places you've been, people you've worked, companies you've wrestled for.
Yeah.
I must say that I am very much surprised at how you're not a bigger name than what you actually are.
I appreciate that. To be blunt, I do get that a lot. I'll be honest. I get it a lot. And sometimes I question it as well. Sometimes it could be my own detriment that I haven't taken the time in the past to travel abroad as much as I should have. But again, it goes kind of in line with what I said earlier about taking things day by day. And I've got some good connections that I should use more often. I'll be honest about that. But right now I'm having a good time, and I appreciate that compliment. I do hear it often, but I do appreciate you for that. So thank you.
No worries. I was going to say, before I reach out to anyone to see if doing a podcast is a potential thing, I always want to do a bit of research on the person before I bring them on, because what I don't want to do is bring them on and then know nothing about the person, because there's no point in me bringing them on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I see that you wrestled for Evolve, the NWA, New Japan, AEW, I even remember seeing your match against Wardlow on TV. You know what I mean? And what have you? And Ring of Honor, the WWE, it's holy shit. You know what I mean? And and it's this guy's on my podcast. You know what I mean? So, but I'm oh wow. You know what I mean? But so for argument's sake, right? Say if a promoter were to be listening to this podcast, right, and whether it be one of the big companies, or what have you, and they were to come to you tomorrow or immediately after this podcast and offer you to go to that company and actually work for them full time, what would your answer be?
I would need to know. I would need to know the fine print of the contract and what is being offered to me. At this point in my career, I'm having fun, but I know what I'm worth at this point. I've got to take care of myself. You know what I mean? I'm not as young as I was. I've taken a lot of really dumb bumps. I'm kind of selective now with who I work for and who I work with. So it would just depend on what's agreed upon, what's on the table. I'm very much a negotiator. I'm easy to work with. You can ask anyone. I feel like I'm one of the most laid back guys in the business right now. I try not to make enemies at all. I just want to do my job, do it well, go home healthy. That's literally all I want to do. If the money's right, if the opportunity is there, and if I feel confident that I can make not only myself but their product better for me being there, then absolutely 100%. I'll make sure that it's better for all of us. I feel like not just myself, but everyone should prosper from me being there. And if that's the case, then absolutely, I will absolutely do it. Yeah.
So obviously with the experience you've got, places you've been, people you've worked, right? I'm sure that you've got a few stories to tell, and a few big names. I'm sure that you've worked with that you've probably not mentioned yet. So would you say that you have any favourite moments, favourite matches, favourite car journeys, and what have you? going to shows, etc., that you like to tell? And
one of my favorite, the one moment that I had where I was like, I can literally retire right now and be happy about this. I got to wrestle Minoru Suzuki in Dallas. It was WrestleMania weekend in 2022, I believe, when they were in Texas. We were the final match of the entire weekend because the show, it was a midnight after WrestleMania show. So it started at midnight. Suzuki was there. We were the main event of the show. And I was so worried that he would not want to do anything because it was like 3 a.m. when we wrestled. But I guess he was on Tokyo time because he was ready to go. But we got to have a room to ourselves. I got to pick that man's brain for like 3.5 hours. And to this day had what I feel in my heart is the best match I've ever had. It was one of those moments where he didn't win the match, but he left the ring to me. He shook my hand. He raised my hand. He left. He let me have the ring. And it was one of those moments where in front of all the people that showed their appreciation for what just happened, I was able to break down, be vulnerable, and cry because of how real it felt. And I went back to our room, and he was in there. He was sitting in a chair, and I shook his hand, and I said, Suzuki-san, anything, please. Like, was it okay? And he in broken English, he said, that's a match I very much enjoy. You are very good. Thank you so much. I was like, dude, I'm good. I was like, I can go home and take my boots off and retire right now. I was like, that meant the world to me. That, and then like I was scheduled, the first show we had back, it was Resurgence when we brought the fans back. I think it was in 2021 or 2022. Myself and the Stray Dog Army, we did a dark match opener before the main show. And then we had a day off and then a taping, I believe, 2 days after that. So I found out after that match that on the taping, I was going to get to wrestle in a 6-man tag against Tanahashi. And I was like, Ace? I was like, I get Hiroshi's on like Japanese John Cena? Are you kidding me? Like, okay. And getting to talk to him, his brain, and then to hear him say, he's like, you are very good. You're very good. I was like, dude, I'm great. If they say I'm good, then I must be decent at what I do. So those were really validation points for me that I'll never forget.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know that training-wise out in Japan, you've got to be more than dedicated, 10 times over.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, dude, Shibata, whenever he's in coach mode, it is like long, grueling days under his training regimen. But it's, you're not kidding. It's rough, but it's worth it. It's bad. It's hard to get through. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I referee wrestling like over this way, and someone who I've worked with a few times, and I've known best part, like 10 years now. A young lad by the name of Jack Landers has not long got back from Japan, and he was wrestling with the likes of Tajiri and whatever, and he was saying, the technicality of and like the hardness of wrestling out there, like they're proper beating the shit out of each other.
Right,
you know what I mean? And he was saying that the rings out there are like concrete. You know what I mean?
What I've heard,
But speaking of Minoru Suzuki, I think you might agree on this. I think that Minoru Suzuki and Tomohiro Ishii are two gentlemen that I'm surprised have never actually won the IWGP World Heavyweight title.
Agreed. Completely agreed. It's weird that he's never, to me personally, Suzuki especially has never been the world champion. It blows my mind. But Ishii as well. I know that he's doing stuff right now in the States with AEW because I know that they have like a pretty hectic travel schedule, though they have with the G1 going on. I know that he's getting a little bit older, But I'm just glad that that Ishii is getting a little bit of a run right now on AEW doing this thing. As he was doing stuff there in Ring of Honor and like just having a great time. I just want to see him have a good time. You know what I mean? But yeah, two guys that definitely are. I'll say like they're champions without the title. They don't need it, but they should have had it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, I'm a big pro wrestling Noah fan. Have been for years. I subscribe to Wrestle Universe, which is basically so it's like multiple companies. So Noah, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling, DDT, and a few others on there, and it's basically their version of the WWE Network. And I like just hearing the thud when they take bumps on the ring. And what have you, and it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? And it's like, thankfully I'm a ref and not an actual wrestler, because like if I was a wrestler, then I would probably be dead by now. You know what I mean? And so is there anything that you've not done in your career so far that you would like to do?
So outside of a contractor going to Japan, I do have one dream opponent, which may require me going to Japan unless he finds his way to the States. I want Marufuji, and I want him bad. I have adopted his signature hook kick in a while, and I posted a little reel, a compilation on my X or Twitter, whatever you call it now, and he retweeted it with like a thumbs up, and I was like, don't tease me. I was like, dude. So I've actually been in talks with like a few promoters with decent money in the States that have actually put feelers out to Marufuji potentially for future stuff. So we'll see if I can make it happen. But I would say right now, I feel obviously like Will Ospreay is everybody's dream match at this point. So that's kind of cliche to say. If he was on the Indies, I would say AJ Styles would be one of mine. But right now, I would say Kenta and Marufuji are my two that I really want to get in there and test myself against. So.
Well, I was going to say, had you have been wrestling out here next month, Marufuji's actually working over here next month as part of
I got to come back, man. See?
Yeah, so Pro Wrestling Noah are doing a tour over here, and they're working with Progress Wrestling. Yeah, and Marufuji's coincidentally actually wrestling on this tour over here. You know what I mean? So I think you came over like 2 months early. You know what I mean?
I did. I was way too early. Yeah, I misjudged my timing. Yeah, I would say Progress and Rev Pro are two places that I have a very big interest in too. So
yeah, definitely. I was going to say, I don't really know too much about Rev Pro, because I remember from sort of 2016 till pretty much until the pandemic, British wrestling was hot as anything. Do you know what I mean? And Rev Pro was hot as anything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But that was a company that I still today know very little about. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But the companies that I was following were Progress, ICW up in Scotland, OTT in Ireland, What Culture Pro Wrestling, WCPW, that then transitioned into Defiant Wrestling, and WAW, Page Family's company.
Yes.
They're literally half an hour up the road from where I am, and in Norwich. I've actually refereed her older brother, Roy Knight, and her older stuff to RKJ. And that's a bit of a pain. But like British wrestling, again, like if traveling and what have you wasn't as big of a problem, like flights or what have you, would you consider coming out here on a more regular basis?
For sure. Yeah. I'm very big on I love to travel. I love to see new things. And as much as I love, the strong style, like in New Japan, everything, I love the technical aspect of the Brit wrestling scene. I absolutely love that style. And it was the two that opened my eyes to like that style when I really studied it. I saw a match between, I think it was Zack Sabre Jr. and at the time Marty Scurll. And I watched them go, and I was like, oh man, like, this is where it's at. This is cool. And I started studying more, and obviously World of Sport and all that back in the day too. So I love the technical styles. I would love to come up there more often and like really test myself against some of like Britain's best. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
Yeah. Excuse me. I was going to say, there is one gentleman by the name of William Regal, who I think was very underutilized in WWE back in the day.
You talk about people that should have been champion. Regal was one of them that never was.
Yeah.
He should have been.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the Dynamite Kid was decades before his time.
Yeah.
I think the British Bulldog was, incredible. His match against Bret Hart at the 92 SummerSlam, I think it was, in Wembley. That match is personally one of my favourite matches of all time. Do you know what I mean? Coincidentally, I've had on British wrestling legend Marty Jones here on the Nerdic Pro podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he is indeed responsible for training the British Bulldog, the Dynamite Kid, William Regal. Even once tag teamed with Hulk Hogan. Not tag teamed against Hulk Hogan, sorry. Tag teamed with Andre the Giant, sorry. And,
That's
so.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
But, so, it's going back to like the World of Sport days, I think that I'm very surprised that it's not spoken about internationally more.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's like people flood into conversations to speak about the days of like the territories and
Right.
what have you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, as a Brit myself, it's like I'm a bit, like, why is the World of Sport being brought into it? Do you know? Because it's obviously like where I'm from and what have you, and so. And and it's like the names that have come out of it, like the British Bulldog, the Dynamite Kid, Rollerball Mark Rocco even wrestled for the WWF as it was back in the late 70s. Finlay, was there, and what have you, Marty Jones, and what have you, Danny Collins, so many people that got on to do massive things.
Right.
And so is there anyone that you had grown up watching, like, speaking of like the past side of wrestling, is there anyone that you had grown up watching that you would have liked to have stepped in the ring with, or you have stepped in the ring with?
Oh man, I feel like it's going to sound cliche, but Shawn Michaels would have been my ultimate dream opponent. Just to learn from him. I still think that he is one of the greatest all-time performers ever to do it. I kind of default to this answer because someone else gave this answer. It's very interesting to me why he said it. But oddly enough, I would love to have wrestled Andre the Giant because of the David and Goliath aspect. Some of my best matches have been with big guys. And someone of that stature, I would love to just see how the psychology would work. And funny enough, someone that I attended a seminar with, it was like in 2016, someone asked this guy, who would your dream opponent be? And Hiroshi Tanahashi said, Andre. I was like, really? Okay, I could see it, I guess. So I kind of defaulted. I was like, I get it. Okay.
That's fair enough. Yeah. So, is there anyone like you say about Marufuji and Ospreay, potentially currently? Is there anyone else currently on the circuit that you might like to share the ring with at some point?
Oh man, I know he's like signed and everything, but a current active wrestler that I would love to get in there with as a dream opponent would be AJ Styles. I think AJ is pound for pound, his intensity, and just the way that he commands the ring and just his overall, just his presence alone. I think AJ would be my dream match currently. I think he's the best in the world right now. On the independent circuit, it's hard to say, man. I mean, because I feel like almost everyone's been scooped up at this point. I feel like I would love to test myself again against Josh Woods because of his background. I feel like he's not talked about enough. I feel like Josh Woods is someone that has such a good background in the MMA and the legit fighting scene, and he has transitioned so well to what he does. And I don't feel like anyone talks about him enough. So I would love to test it again against Josh Woods.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So people listening to this podcast, where can people expect to see the Stray Dog, Barrett Brown, wrestling in the very near future?
Very near future, I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas this Sunday doing my thing. I'm going to debut for Dog Pound Championship Wrestling, which is ran by Rodney Mack and Jazz. I know that they also run TSW, which is now a NWA affiliate. So who knows? You could see the Stray Dog wander back into the NWA before you know it. We'll see. Man, in front of me, I don't have my calendar right with me, but I will say, as a cheap plug, go to www.barrettbrownpro.com. All my socials are there. My calendar's there. My upcoming events are all there. I got some blogs. I got highlight videos. All my stuff is there. Go follow me. Go check me out. I try to interact when I can. And if you see me at a show, say hi. Don't be shy. I will say hello. I don't have the big ego that some people have that I hate. So I'm just another guy. I'm still a fan, and I would love to say hello to you. So come see me at a show.
San Antonio, funnily enough, that's actually where my dad is from.
Really? That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, he moved over. Bit of a backstory to that. So basically, his dad is from New Mexico in Mexico. He was in the U.S. Air Force, fought in the Vietnam War as a master sergeant.
Oh wow!
Yada yada yada. He was stationed over here at the Mildenhall and the Lakenheath air bases. Here in Norfolk in England, which is literally not too far from me. Funnily enough, met my nan, God rest her soul, and they then had my dad and a few other kids, so my aunts, my uncles, yada yada yada. But she flew out to the States. And what I did, lived there, and then my dad was then born in San Antonio, and so
that's awesome.
He then moved back over here, and so he then moved over here, yada yada yada, and then back in 2004, out Arcade, and
wow,
so,
small world,
San Antonio is a place that I would like to come to, and coincidentally, the only times I've actually left England is when I went to Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. And, the word talks about me coming over and what because obviously I've got family out there, like my granddad and whatever. The word talks about going out there. Next thing you know, literally as soon as we were getting passports and all that sorted, next thing you know, COVID hit, and then couldn't. But I did say that if I were to ever come out to the States, I would spend most of my time trying to find wrestling shows. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's like, I'm out here anyway, so I may as well do something that I like doing at home. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And, off the top of your head, where can people find you on social media? Like Facebook, Insta?
Yep, I'm on all that stuff, man. I have Facebook. My X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, is at TCO_BarrettB. Instagram is the same handle. I have a Snapchat that I don't ever really use, but I'm on there if you want to see a story or two every month. But I'm most active on my Facebook. If you want to follow me on there, my Twitter stays pretty active, and my Instagram I usually post on there pretty frequently. And if you want the main base where you can find all my stuff, www.barrettbrownpro.com. All my socials are on there, as long as my YouTube, and where I got some matches and some fun stuff on there as well. So, and I got merch on there, y'all. I got merch on my website, so go check that out too. Cheap plug.
Yeah. 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 So, but yeah, have you got anything to add onto today's podcast?
Man, if anything, just guys, enjoy wrestling. I feel like right now, society is very based on negativity. Everyone wants to argue for no reason. And I feel like wrestling should bring people together. Don't let it separate us any more than what society already has. Let's enjoy it. Like, if you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like, it's all good. You don't like AEW, go watch WWE, go watch Ring, go watch New Japan. There's a little bit of wrestling for everybody right now. Let's just enjoy it. Let's let it bring us together, y'all. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, like, to touch on that by a tiny bit, I hate it. I hate it when people argue on social media, bitching and moaning at each other, being like, oh, WWE shit, AEW shit.
I don't get it,
man. You know what I mean?
I don't get it. Yeah.
You know, it's like, if you don't like a certain product, no one is forcing you to watch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Watch something else. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but you know, I just thought that I'd add it in there because, you know, that boils my blood. You know,
I agree. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
So, yeah. But anyways, Barrett, I must say, it has been an absolute honour and a privilege having you on the Nerdic Pro podcast this evening. I honestly cannot thank you enough. And yeah, so.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And you guys will be seeing some upcoming defenses of this, I'm sure, in the near future. Go check out the AIWF network to see me and, you know, everyone else involved in the AIWF try to build the brand up. And Bobby, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast and an honor for me as well. So I thank you so much for taking your time.
Honestly, no worries at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast, with me on the line has been the current Allied Independent Wrestling Federation's AIWF World Cruiserweight Champion, the Stray Dog, Mr. Barrett Brown, as seen in AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Evolve, and the NWA, and the WWE. Yeah, so do not forget, folks, as our ever-growing friendship, partnership, and alliance with the AIWF grows, for the life of me, I can't remember what date we actually had agreed and settled on, but at the end of next month, we will be welcoming on the current AIWF World Women's Champion, as seen in AEW, Miss Clara Carter. And we will also be partnering up with the we've already partnered up with the AWF to host the All-Star Wrestling Quiz League, which will become a regular thing. I'm hoping the end of October, start of November, but we've recently had the Golden Boy Greg Anthony on to quiz him on pro wrestling. Yeah, that should be up on the AWF Network YouTube channel very soon. It's also up on our YouTube channel and here on Facebook. Yeah, so already some huge names are part of that already as well. And yeah, so, but again, this interview currently with Mr. Barrett Brown will be up on the AWF Network YouTube channel within the next couple of weeks. I unfortunately can't set a specific date because I unfortunately don't get told that, like, until it gets put up onto the channel. But yeah, so you can blame Rick Diesel for that. But yeah, so, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the Nerdic Pro podcast, with me on the line has been the man himself, the Stray Dog, Barrett Brown, the AIWF World Cruiserweight Champion. If there's anyone watching this that's 210 pounds or less that wants to fight for that title, then Matt Classic's your man to message and like to arrange that match. And yeah, so but yeah, anyways, Barrett, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I must say thank you very much. And thank you very much to those of you that have been watching. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people on the Nerdic Pro podcast, thank you all very much, and goodbye.